This is Gareth Southgate, and this is the Three Lions podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Three Lions podcast. My name is Russell Osborne and this is an independent England football supporters podcast that I'm sure you know tries to look at all aspects of our national team. And that is certainly something we're going to try and do in this episode as we take a look back on the Lionesses' recent World Cup qualifiers with Rich Laverty, and also we'll catch up again with Stuart Langworthy from the England walking football team. Firstly, though, I just want to say thanks for the support and kind words for the recent episodes. We had a couple. One where I spoke with Chris Evans, author of the biography of Don Revie, and also the episode where I delved into the history of the debut England goal scorers. Both are still available at your chosen podcast platform. As always, just search Three Lions Podcast. And the same of which applies if you are searching on social media. And speaking of which, you may have seen a post I put out recently, kind of following up on that episode with Don Revie. The manager that followed him was Ron Greenwood. And I'm currently putting in the hard yards for that next episode about England managers. That'll hopefully be with you soon, possibly early next year. I've got to finish the book first. So make sure you stay subscribed, you won't miss it. And also over on social media, we are well into the England Advent calendar. It is, as always, just a little bit of fun. This year, we're reliving, in no particular order, some of those iconic moments from 2021. And also, it's that time of year when the likes of Spotify reveal what you have been listening to over the year. And I've been taken aback by how many people have sent me screenshots of where the podcast is within their listening lists or their listening habits. It's fascinating to see. And to be honest, I'm quite taken aback by it. Thoroughly amazed that this podcast makes it so highly into your ears. Thank you. Is all I can really say. Thank you very much. I'll try and continue to do it as long as you continue to listen to it. So, thank you once again. Now, let's start this episode off with Rich Laverty. It's always good to invite Rich onto the show. Let's kickstart this episode by looking at the Lionesses, who have been in action with their last international break of the year. Rich, you all right?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. Thank you.
Yes, all very well, thank you. Welcome back. 2 games for the Lionesses over this last international break. There was Austria at home, well, both of them at home. Austria at Sunderland and Latvia at Doncaster. I mean, obviously, everyone probably is aware of the Latvia game, but let's start at Austria. And I've got to hold my hands up. It was a game I only saw the highlights of because this game collided with Arsenal-Newcastle. I think that's what I was watching on the telly at the time. But I saw the highlights, 1-0 win. And given all the recent results that England and the Lionesses have had, this has probably been definitely been their toughest test, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it was always going to be. You know, Austria are actually quite a decent side. They've got some good players. Got Manuel Zinsberger in goal. Obviously, the Arsenal number 1. They've got Nico Beer up front, who's a fantastic striker playing in Germany for Hoffenheim. And they've got some very good players in between as well. So, you know, obviously they've qualified for the Euros next year. It's going to be the opening game, England-Austria next year at Old Trafford. So, yeah, it was always going to be tough. I mean, I think England played well. They were pretty dominant, a little bit wasteful. Probably could have pulled the trigger a little bit more in front of goal. Always seemed to be looking for the extra pass. And, you know, when it's 1-0, you can always get punished. Mary Earps had to make a couple of very good saves in the second half. But, you know, they needed that because, I mean, the other games, obviously Tuesday night, but even before that, have been walkovers. And I think England have scored 50 odd goals now in like 5 qualifying games, which is probably tells its own story of what they're up against at the moment. So they needed a test, obviously it's a pretty unique situation. I think I probably said this last time that, you usually wouldn't be playing these games, building up to a major tournament, because there's the gap. You have a tournament, then you qualify for the next one. But obviously with the close schedule now, they're having to qualify for 2023 whilst preparing for 2022 because they're only a year apart. So, ordinarily you'd want to be playing stronger sides, but it's the same for everybody. Spain, Germany, France, they're all playing sort of weaker teams at the moment, and they'll all get into their tournaments, their friendly tournaments early next year. But it's just what you've got to do. You've just got to go through them, haven't you? Get the results and come out the other side, because it's not, anywhere near representative of what they're going to play at the Euros next year, bar Austria. So, yeah, they've done a professional job so far. They've done what they've had to do. But, yeah, they're going to need some sterner tests, and they're going to get that, in their next games early next year when they play Spain, Germany and Canada.
That's right, yeah, which is, we'll get onto that in a moment, because that's a little tournament that's been spread around the country. But that Austria game, Ellen White, 100th cap, and she scored the goal there. Mary Earps as well, you mentioned her. I mean, can we see Mary Earps now being the number one keeper? It seems like Serena Weidman is more than happy to persist with Mary Earps.
Possibly, and, sometimes things just fall into your lap a little bit. And I'm not saying she hasn't earned it, but obviously earlier this year, Ellie Roebuck was kind of probably the undisputed number one, and Mary Earps really wasn't even getting in the squad. Sandy McKeever was in there, Hannah Hampton had been in there, Carly Telford was still getting called up, and Earps wasn't really getting in the squad. And obviously since Roebuck got injured, she's not played since the Olympics in the summer. Earps has kind of taken that role on. She's played well for Man United. It's hard, bar obviously that game, to judge her, because I don't think she's barely had a touch in some of the other games. But against Austria, she did well. She made a couple of good saves, and that's all you can really ask of your goalkeeper. So it'll be interesting to see when Roebuck comes back what the situation is, because I think many still view her as the future number one, because of her age. And, she's an incredibly talented goalkeeper for her age, but you have to earn it. I'm sure she'll go back into the squad, but you have to earn your spot in the team. And if she plays well for Man City, then, Serena will have a decision to make. But yeah, right now, I think Mary deserves those games in February. I mean, if Roebuck's back by then, they might rotate, and they'll probably see how each of them does. But, we need to see Earps now, I think, for a sustained period in some of the bigger games where you're going to be a bit more under pressure. But she's done well, and, when you get that chance, sometimes it takes a while when you're a goalkeeper, because it's the one place, if you're not playing, you're not going to come on as a sub. So, she's taken that chance well. She's done well so far. So, she's got every chance now, I think, of staying there. Well,
I mean, moving on to the next game, which obviously everyone is fully aware of. It was, the Lionesses 20, Latvia 0. Mary Earps, actually, when she did touch the ball there, she was given quite a cheer by the Doncaster crowd. Were you there at that game?
Well, funny story, I was meant to be. So me and one or two colleagues, we'd gone down to St George's Park earlier in the day because the under-23s were playing. And
who incidentally had a big score as well, didn't they?
Yeah, they won, I think it was 11-0. So, and we were sort of joking on the way back, like we might be the only people in history to see England score double figures in 2 separate games on the same day. The traffic was horrendous, so there was a few people ahead of us that were a bit nearer getting into Doncaster, said it was absolutely horrific. And we were in the car sort of, and the ETA just kept going up. And to be honest with you, by this point, I wasn't that bothered, because I thought it's not going to be an exciting game. I knew it was just going to be, I didn't think it was going to be 20, but, I was pretty sure it was going to be double figures. And we'd had a long day, like it had been freezing cold at SGP, and we were just sat in traffic, and the ETA just kept going up, and it went past kickoff, and it went to about 7:20 at one point, and we just decided. So we actually went to a little local, little pub nearby, got some nice food, sat by the fire, and they put it on the big TV for us. So we just watched it in a pub round the corner. It was just, if we'd have gone in, we'd have missed about the first 7 goals, because I don't think we would have been there till about 30 minutes in, and I think it was 7-8-0 by then. So I wasn't actually there in the end, but I did see the game.
Well, I mean, you weren't alone in missing the first. I missed the first 6 goals for a combination of putting my daughter to bed and putting my dinner on. Every time I stuck my head round the corner, they'd scored another one. We've had this conversation previously before. There was the 2 10-0 results. There was the 9-0 against Luxembourg, Latvia, North Macedonia. And I think 2 of those are still to come next year in the qualifying campaign. I think it's easy to knock Latvia and these smaller teams, but I think in their defence, they had, I think, 6 debutants, Latvia, and the goalkeeper from the first game wasn't even part of this game, was she?
No, and that's one of the issues. The article that I wrote a few weeks ago before this latest group was one of the things that came up really that probably we here in England and probably many of the other sort of established European nations now don't take into account, that a lot of these countries still have part-time domestic leagues, semi-professional domestic leagues. And, that means the players are part-time, and that transfers over to the national team. So when you're asking players to travel abroad, 3-4 hour flights away to England and to Northern Ireland and wherever, it's not feasible for a lot of people. So not only are you up against it anyway, because you are so much weaker than the team you're playing, your women's football in that country is so much less developed, you're actually going there, like you say, with a weaker squad. England are putting out, their first team. It was a very, very strong lineup from Serena Wiegman on Tuesday. And like you say, Latvia had several debutants. They had an 18-year-old in goal. And what chance have you got? It's a weird one, because we can say it's not good for the game, and it's probably not, but it's going to happen. It's going to be part of the growing pains while these countries develop, and I hope they do. It will probably be slower than the major nations, but we need them to, because I think the top nations will only keep getting stronger. And if the others don't, then you're going to see more 10, 11, 12 nils. Hopefully we don't see too many 20 nils. I'm hoping that was a bit of a one-off in terms of Latvia's situation on the night. But yeah, I mean, it's not great. You don't want to see it. No, I don't think anyone enjoys it. I mean, maybe younger fans, kids at the game probably thought it was great, who don't understandably really understand the ins and outs of women's football and what those results actually mean for the wider game. I'm sure the kids there absolutely love seeing England score every few minutes, and I've got no issue, with that. But for those of us that cover the game and sort of talk about its progression and its development, I don't think we want to see, 20 nils. We don't even want to see 10 nils, never mind 20 nils. So, we have to hope these countries can develop. They need a bit of help. That was one thing that was evident talking to some of the coaches, including Latvia's coach, was, they're trying to develop, but they need a bit of help from within. They need a bit of help from UEFA, and hopefully we can give them it, because, and it's always going to happen. We were saying this off air before, that there will always be a gap. You see it in the men's game now. There's still 10 nils, 11 nils in qualifying, and the men's game is light years ahead of the women in terms of development around the world. And that's sport. There's always a gap, whether it's football, whether it's tennis, cricket, Formula One, darts, snooker, whatever. There's always players and teams that are the best, and there's always players and teams that are the worst. And that's just sport, that's how it is. So it's a difficult one. I don't think there's any easy answer, but yeah, it's not enjoyable to watch. It's like watching a training session where you're just constantly shooting at your goalkeeper.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, or someone who perhaps didn't mind it would be, well, all 4 hat-trick players, but Ellen White, obviously, we've got to just quickly mention Ellen White became England's, the Lionesses' all-time leading goal scorer ahead of Kelly Smith with, 48 goals now for Ellen.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great achievement. I think she's had a little bit of stick this year, really, Ellen. I mean, it's a weird. She can be frustrating, she's offside a lot, but you know what? She's a proper number 9. She's strong, she's physical, she gets ahead on things, she gets tap-ins, and even the first goal on Tuesday night, the goal on Saturday against Austria. It's just fallen to her a few yards out, but she's there, and that's what you want your striker to do. And I think she's got 30 goals now, I think it is, this calendar year, which, I mean, if I'd be pretty happy with 30 goals. I'd sit back and think I'd had a decent year. And, she's up there with some of the best numbers in the world for goals scored this year. And given, particularly, obviously, England at the start of the year weren't in great form. Man City haven't been in great form since the summer. She's had a good year, and she had a great Olympics. 6 goals, I think it was. She got a hat trick against Australia, so she's always there. She'll always score goals, and that's what you want your strikers to do. So what's probably scary is when you look at the fact that she's probably got plenty more of these games to come in her career, is just how many more is she going to get? I think she'll be long gone in terms of goals by the end of her career, depending on how long she plays for England. But yeah, great record to break. Kelly Smith's obviously a legend, but records are there to be broken, and I'm sure one day we'll be sat here talking about somebody breaking Ellen's record.
Yeah, well, may well be. Next up for the Lionesses is this February tournament that you originally told us that Spain and Germany were going to be part of, and then they announced that Canada were going to be making up the fourth place team. And it's a competition or a little tournament that's going to be spread around England, going to Middlesbrough, Norwich and Wolverhampton, Molineux, Wolves. Obviously, these 3 teams are much more capable than the likes of Latvia, North Macedonia and the like. So this is where probably all this confidence that has come from these qualifiers now needs to be put into real practice, because obviously these 3 games are going to be a totally different kettle of fish.
Oh, yeah, and it's what they need, because that's going to be much more representative of what they're going to have to face. If they want to win the European Championships next year, Spain are rightly going to be one of the favourites, given their level of talent at the moment. Obviously, so many of their players coming out of that Barcelona team that have dominated 2021. Germany, maybe not quite at the level they used to be, but still an incredibly good team. They've got some very exciting young players that are coming through. And then obviously Canada, they won't play at the Olympics, but at the Euros, but still a very good test, obviously the Olympic gold medalists. So yeah, it's much more what you need, and obviously some good stadiums as well, big stadiums around the country, hopefully a good opportunity to get some good crowds. And yeah, we definitely won't be seeing any 20-0, which is good. So no, I'm looking forward to it, because maybe I'm old and boring now, I don't know, but I don't look forward to these games against Latvia and Luxembourg, because you just know what's going to happen. So yeah, very much looking forward to those games, and yeah, in terms of the Euros, very, very much what England need right now.
So on the whole, 2021 for the Lionesses, how would you look at it?
Well, it's been it started obviously not great. I mean, there was sort of an 18-month hangover from the World Cup. Obviously, we had big changes. We've had 3 managers, Phil obviously and went, and then obviously Hager came in and sort of stabilised things a little bit, and then we morphed into Team GB over the summer, obviously, and it didn't go as we wanted. Obviously didn't quite hold on against Australia and missed out on getting to the semi-finals, which was, I think, disappointing for the level of talent that we had. But it was a tough situation for a manager coming in at very short notice, very few build-up games because of COVID earlier in the year as well. And going since, I think in terms of managerial appointments, I don't think we could have done much better than getting Serena. We've had a great start, but, you can't judge. You cannot judge yet. Hager Risa would have won those games. Phil Neville would have won those games. Yeah. So it's now about, they're friendlies, but they're going to be very representative friendlies in February. And that will give us, I think, a lot more of an idea of where we are, particularly Spain, because I think they are going to be one of the benchmark teams next year. So they've probably got to where they need to be, probably not in the way they expected, with Phil obviously going to Inter Miami like he did. But I think they've got a very good coach now in place. The players seem reasonably happy. And as well, they've got some key players to come back, that maybe needed a bit of a rest, actually, and it might help them, Lucy Bronze and Ellie Roebuck and Steph Houghton. I mean, fingers crossed Chloe Kelly even can be back. Obviously, she did her ACL in May. You'd like to think she can be back, but, we'll see what kind of form she's in. But, I mean, she was unbelievable for Man City before she got injured. So there's 3, 4, 5 players there, that might come back fresh and sort of reinvigorated that will be very important for England next year. I've got no doubt. Yeah, I still think there's a bit of a way to go. I don't think England are they're probably one of the favourites, but I wouldn't put them as the favourite for the tournament. It should be a great year ahead. I mean, to host the Euros, I think we're all excited about it, having games around, Sheffield and Rotherham and Manchester. And I'm sure the Southern, fans and journalists feel the same about games down there. So I think they're going in with a lot of promise and a lot of excitement, but we can't get too OTT because, like I said, these games are not anywhere near, apart from Austria, not anywhere near representative of what they're going to face next year. So good start for Serena. She's done what she had to do. You can't criticise her for that. But I think we'll have a better idea when we sit down in February and look back at that tournament and how that goes.
Yeah, well, we'll put a date in the diary to have a chat about that next February. But just before we leave, you're working hard on something with The Guardian at the moment. Do you want to tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, so doing the annual top 100 female footballers at the moment. Yeah, I mean, it's done. We have the list now. That was sorted at the weekend. As much as we love to keep voting open for as long as we can, because we always do lose some judges because particularly national team coaches. It's an incredibly busy time of the year, and our deadline just happened to fall on an international break. We had to cap it at some point because there's a lot of work to do now in this week in terms of getting the pictures together, the graphics, the profiles written for every single player, and getting everything ready across, obviously, the Guardian website, also the Offside Rule website for next week. So we launch it tomorrow. Technically, we'll just put something out, confirming that we're doing it. And then, next week it will come out on Tuesday through till Friday in its usual section. So first 30 on Tuesday, another 30 on Wednesday, another 30 on Thursday. And then the top 10 will come out on Friday morning. I think it's a good list. I think it's a very strong list. Again, I think it probably shows there's been a bit of a power balance this year. It's quite a different looking list to how it has been. I think it reflects the fact, obviously, some teams this year, ended the dominance of others. Barcelona ended Lyon's dominance in Europe. PSG ended their dominance in France. Bayern Munich, ended Wolfsburg's dominance in Germany. And even internationally, you look at the NWSL, Washington Spirit winning their first championship, Canada winning a first Olympic gold. There was a lot of teams this year that, sort of rose to the top. And I do think that is reflected somewhat in the list. So hope people enjoy it. As always, it's a mega amount of work. We try and get it as right as possible, but I don't have, unfortunately, that much influence over people. I can't. I've got 86 judges this year. I can't tell them all who I want them to vote for. We send them a list, and it was quite an extensive list this year. I mean, last year was very, very difficult because of COVID. There was so many players that just hadn't played a lot of football. Thankfully, this year, it kind of returned to normal a bit. And I think we nominated nearly 700 players this year. We wanted to be quite lenient. And, at the end of the day, it has to be down to the judges. It shouldn't be down to me or the few people who helped me put together the long list, because, I'm not an expert on every league in the world, and I don't want to miss people if I can help it. So, we sent a very long list to the judges this year, and the process from there on in was the same. They all picked their top 40 in order, send them back, and it sort of just works on a point system, a bit like Eurovision, really, depending on how. It's always what I compare it to, because you have 86 people who vote completely independently, and they all pick their 40, and whoever's first, they get 40 points, second gets 39 points, etc., down to their 40th pick that gets 1 point. But it's all completely individual and completely anonymous as well. And some people always say, like, you could do anything, people, we don't know who people are voting for. And I'm like, yeah, but then everyone laughs when the FIFA awards come out in January, and you can look at who everyone's voted for, and everyone's just voted for their mates and their teammates, because they've got to. Do you know what I mean? They get absolutely crucified. If it came out, and a national team manager had not voted for one of their players or something, then you're going to have chaos. So we want people to vote fairly and not to feel, because we have a lot of current club managers. We have a lot of current national team managers. We've got Vlatko Andonovski, we've got Jonas Eidval, now at Arsenal, Joe Montemuro and Laura Harvey, etc. And we don't want them, if they want to vote for their own players, fine, and many do, but we don't want them to feel pressured into, putting players in for the sake of it that maybe haven't had the greatest years. So, I think most do vote very fairly. Obviously, I know who everyone's voted for, but nobody else does, and they don't know who each other's voted for. And it's a pretty open process from that point of view, but we do keep it anonymous for, like I say, we want people to vote fairly, and we want to get the most representative 100 that we can. It's never going to be perfect. It's a list. It's so subjective, and that's what, if we'd have had one more judge, the order would have changed, in certain areas. We had one less. I think the last set of votes we got in, I think 3 players dropped out of the 100 and 3 went in, because at the bottom end, I think like at the top end, there's usually like 100 or 200 points between each player in like the top 10. When you get down to the bottom 50, there's probably 100 points between about 30 players, so if you get 1 or 2 big votes at the end, someone can jump up 20 positions. And if I'm being honest, it all gets a bit erratic in the bottom half. Like, I don't pay too much attention to the order. I think the bottom half for me is about who's in it. That's generally where we get the players that maybe are in there for the first time. And that's why we do a top 100, because that we give recognition to players that are not going to get Ballon d'Or nominations, FIFA nominations, because whoever wins, and everyone's going to be interested in who wins our top 100, but the players that are going to be high up, the Alexias, the Miedemars, the Graham Hansons, the Kerrs, the Harders, they're there every year, but they don't need that recognition. Alexia's just won the Ballon d'Or, she's won the UEFA award. Miedemar, gets recognition every day. Kerr gets recognition every day. So for us, it's about giving recognition to players that, if you're in the top 100, it means you've had a good year at some point, because there's so many good players around the world. And whilst the order may be a bit all over the place, when you get down to the bottom half, that's what it's about for us, because we're giving recognition to players that get it in the women's game, but maybe don't get it when it comes to, the end of year awards. And that's really why we do it. So, and there's a lot of them this year. There's a lot of new players in it. So, yeah, looking forward to it coming out. People will rip it apart, I've got no doubt, as usual. I can't be hypocritical about that, because I do the same with other lists, and it's all fun and games. We say it every year, we love doing it and we take it very seriously, but it's a list at the end of the day. No one's ever going, if you think the 42nd player is wrong, or the 56th player is wrong, fine. I probably do as well. I never agree with it. People think it's my list. It's not. I just facilitate the project, and it's an honour to do it, particularly with The Guardian now, but it is just a list. It's not the gospel. I say that every year. It's incredibly subjective depending on the judges you have, who gets their votes back, who you lose, who you get. And it's just a good thing for the women's game, I think, to have, and we take it seriously, like I said, but it's not life or death. It's just a list.
No, it's an interesting one, as always, and I look forward to going through it with a fine-tooth comb.
I'm sure you're not the only one.
Rich, thank you as always for chatting, and let's put a date in to speak in February.
Yeah, no problem.
Now, back in May of this year, I spoke with Stuart Langworthy, manager of the over-60s England walking football team, and also assistant manager of the over-40s women's team. And it's my pleasure to welcome him back for a bit of a catch-up. Stuart, hello there.
Hi there. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Yourself?
Yeah, good, thank you. Good, thank you. It's nice to be back busy and playing again, so a bit more to report this time, I hope.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, I mean, let's just make sure. Are you still the manager of the over 60s men and the assistant to the over 40s women?
Yes, I am. But I'm also now a director. So I had a bit of a health scare last year, and it made me realise that I was still teaching part-time, and I've been teaching for 39 years. And I was desperate to get up to 40, but I looked at it and thought, you know what, it's just a number, isn't it? So I've now retired,
Right.
and walking football is now an 8-day-a-week voluntary job.
Harder than the teaching then, is it?
Not harder.
No.
It's something that I love, but it's all consuming. It's all day, every day. Most weekends are away doing something, but that's what I enjoy doing, and I've got a very supportive family. So it's good.
Oh, excellent. So as a director, you say?
Yeah, there are 5 directors. We're looking for more, but currently there are 5 directors of the WFA, and my responsibility is for grassroots. And we've a lot to tell you really about what we're doing with Parkinson's walking football and things like that. So there's lots been going on.
Well, I mean, you say Parkinson's. I mean, that's obviously in the news with the sad passing of Ray Kennedy as well.
Yeah, and there's been a Ray Kennedy Cup, which has been going for years, which has been played for by Parkinson's teams, and very sad. I think he'd been suffering from Parkinson's for something like 36 years, something like that. Yeah. So the people that we've been working with have been sort of commenting on that all day, and sad loss, very sad loss. But hopefully it'll always be remembered through the Ray Kennedy Cup that takes place each year.
Oh, good stuff. I wish you all the very best with that. But yeah, I mean, since May, 6 months in that time, what else has been going on?
Well, I suppose we might as well start with the Parkinson's, really. We the Walking Football Association are now going into partnership with Sport Parkinson's because we've seen how powerful the sport can be at helping people with long-term health conditions such as Parkinson's. We now have 3 centres that we know about in England. There's one in Watford, one in Birmingham, and one in Liverpool that have just walking football sessions just for people with Parkinson's. And today I've been talking to someone in Mansfield, up in the northeast, and one in Worcester. And it's growing very, very quickly, the idea, because walking football is such a safe game, and it seems to help bring these people to life. They might struggle with their walking because of Parkinson's, but you put a ball in front of some of them and it has a dramatic impact on some people, and they just feel, in the words of Paul Nichols, who I'm working closely with, who was part of the We're Undefeatable group that I was in, it helps him to feel normal for an hour a week. And, it's fascinating to see how powerful a football can be to these people. So, yeah, we're working with Sport Parkinson's, and the plan is that by July we'll have the first national cup for walking football teams just for players with Parkinson's, and it'll be the Sport Parkinson Cup. Oh. So something to really look forward to.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, once that's up and running, then yeah, we'll have to talk again about that one, see how that's panning out.
Yeah, it's fascinating and it's exciting, and it's just great for these people because it really does help them to get up and get out and get mobile again. So it's brilliant.
And the women, I think you've been busy with.
Yes, the women, all 3 women's teams went to Guernsey. We took 5 teams to Guernsey. That was quite a mammoth trip to organise. We went there in August, and we came away with a clean sweep, but some fantastically competitive games and some superb hospitality from the people out in Guernsey. The over 60s, the recently formed over 60s women played their first game over there, and they won 2-1, I think. And the over 40s women played against the Guernsey over 60s men, and they won 1-0. And right. The over 50s won 2-0 against the Guernsey's, the younger female Guernsey team. They won 2-0. So really good. And we took the over 50s men out there as well, and the over 65 men. So a fantastic experience for everyone. As I say, great hospitality and a brilliant and memorable weekend for everyone who went out there. And thanks to Guernsey for hosting us and providing us with a great opportunity. And the timing of it, August, it was just what everyone needed post-COVID. And it was just a superb experience.
Absolutely. I mean, was that just against teams from Guernsey, or were there other nations there?
No, just against Guernsey. And what we did, obviously they've got a much smaller pool of players than we have. So we challenged each of our teams. So our over 50s played against a much younger team. Our over 50s men played against a younger team. Well, all of our teams basically played against challenging opposition. As I say, our over 40s women played against the over 60s men. And that was a real tough test for them. They came out of it with flying colours. They did superbly well.
And do Guernsey have well, you say it's a smaller pool of players, but was it an opportunity to sort of build relations with Guernsey?
Yeah, we've been over there a few times. I did a coaching course over there a couple of years ago, and then we took our over 70s men and a mixed women's team over there in October 2019 to play the first ever women's game and over 70s games. They're looking to enter a team into the World Cup next year. So, yeah, we've got a really good relationship with Guernsey. They're looking to bring over a couple of teams to play against some Southwest teams in March as part of their preparation for the World Cup. So they've got a fantastic setup over there, and the committee, and at the helm of it, Paul Wheatley is a fantastic guy who will be 75 next year. And he actually plays for the England over 70s team, and his wife plays for the England over 50s team at the moment, but they obviously live over in Guernsey at the moment. So that's quite an interesting one to get your head around. Yeah, they'll be representing Guernsey or Paul. They hope to represent Guernsey if the World Cup comes to their age groups. So yeah, it's good.
Or, I mean, I'm just trying to cast my mind back to when we spoke in May. I can't remember whether we spoke about the World Cup, but maybe enlighten me again about the Walking World Cup.
Well, we were planning on running it last year and this year, but obviously COVID had something to say about that. So the World Nations Cup, the plan is that it will take place in 2022 in Manchester.
Right.
Those plans are already in some doubt because of COVID again, and this most recent episode has made everyone think again about travel. But also the Women's Euros are taking place next summer, and the Etihad complex is being used as part of that. So we were hoping it would be in May. Maybe it will be in July, which might give us a few more months to make sure everything's safe for people to travel and to take part. Or maybe we need a different venue. But we're certainly planning on having a World Nations Cup for the over 50s and over 60s next year. It's been postponed twice. We desperately want to get it up and running.
So is this something that you as a director of the WFA and your colleagues are trying to organise and inviting teams over? Or?
Yeah. The first year we were going to run it, we were confident that we would get 8 to 10 teams at each age group. Last year we were confident that we would have had 16 teams at each age group. Such is the nature of walking football, that it's growing so rapidly. We're confident that there are enough teams out there to come and make it a really, really good competition. And yeah, as you know, we're all volunteers. So this is something that we will be running around and organising next year. We did have great support, and I'm sure we will still have great support from Manchester as a city. We had Andy Burnham on board there, and all the tourist organisations and the local FA in Manchester were also very supportive. So we had lots of great support. So we are really hopeful that we'll get it up and running again in 2022. So it's something to really look forward to.
Yeah, well, it sounds like, as you say, the support is there and the interest from other opponents is there. It's just, making sure that everything is safe for everyone to participate in.
Yeah, absolutely. We've had to take the difficult decision to postpone it twice, but those are the right decisions. You can't put people at risk. The trip to Guernsey was very complicated in terms of forms that you had to fill out and things like that. We've also recently come back from Spain. We took teams over to the Basque Country, and again, the paperwork for that was difficult, but people were more than willing to do it. So that was another great experience.
How did that results-wise go in Spain there?
Very good, very positive. The Basque region is a very, very proud region of Spain. Some of the players took great delight in telling us that they were, in their younger days, they were hoping to get a call up from Spain in order to reject it and say that they were going to play for the Basque Country. They are that passionate about their independent region.
Yeah.
And we helped their dreams to come true. So they put on the Basque Country shirt and they played against England. And there's lots of history there because it was English football that helped bring football into that region, from the ship workers from Southampton. And the reason why they play in red and white stripes is because the founder went over to England to buy some shirts. They originally wore Blackburn Rovers shirts. He went over to England to buy some shirts and saw the Southampton shirts and liked them even more. So he bought Southampton shirts and took them back over.
Oh, there
and
you
that's
go.
why Athletic Club Bilbao play in red and white stripes.
Oh, there you go. I've learned something there. I didn't know that.
Yeah. We won both games quite comfortably, but then they've been playing for a year or so, and we've been playing for 4 or 5 years. So, they were expecting a tough game, and they got a tough game. But again, the hospitality was second to none. It was brilliant. We helped to make their dreams come true, and they were just so grateful. And we had a guided tour of the stadium. It was just a fantastic experience for all players concerned. The whole trip was a massive success. And there's lots of stuff on Twitter that people can go and see about the trip as well. It's just fantastic.
Well, I mean, let's go down the sort of the social media side of things. Where can we find you on Twitter?
So our Twitter account is at the WFA UK. We're also on Facebook for people who want to look us up on Facebook, the Walking Football Association. And we're also on Instagram. Now, I'm not very good on Instagram, so I wouldn't even know where to
I imagine if you just put in Walking Football
Association, you'd find us, yeah.
And it's also the website, which is the wfa.co.uk, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a very good website. There's a Find a Club feature on there for people who are new to the sport who want to find it. There's also the fantastic guide to walking football that's on there as well, which is a free downloadable booklet, which we did in partnership with Pure Retirement. They funded that. So, yeah, there's lots of good stuff on there. I'd like to also mention Pharmacy to You whilst we're on here, who have been a very supportive sponsor. They've supported the National Cup. So since we last spoke, we've had the National Cup finals at over 50s and over 60s and over 70s men and over 65s, actually. And a couple of weeks ago, we held the first ever Women's National Cup at over 40s and over 50s. And Pharmacy to You have sponsored that for us. So fantastic turnout with over 300 teams taking part across the country. And just a great experience for all those involved.
Absolutely great, superb, and well done. I guess the more sponsorship and that get involved is going to benefit the game going forward. Yeah,
absolutely. We as we've said before, the players who go on these international trips are all self-funded. What we've tried to do is we've tried to provide them with kits to make sure that they all look professional when they travel. So with the money from Pure Retirement, we've kitted out all of our England teams. But I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg. We're doing an awful lot of work with grassroots because the grassroots is really, really important. And, the Walking Football Association is constantly looking at the laws of the game and listening to clubs and what clubs want in terms of the laws of the game and supporting cup competitions and leagues and things like that at grassroots level and training referees, which is such an important thing. The problem with the game is that if you go to most club sessions, it's not refereed. So what happens is the game tends to be a lot faster and maybe more physical than it should be.
Right.
And then when clubs do go to a WFA organised competition, because they've got referees, sometimes there's frustration about how strict the rules are interpreted. And, the more we can get referees out into club sessions, the more players will understand how important those rules are in terms of, the definition of the game is it's walking football, it's non-contact, and it's a safe sport and it's an inclusive sport. So, the more we can get referees out there, the better.
Absolutely.
I nearly forgot to mention, we were nominated for the Sports Business Awards in the Sporting Diversity section. And we got to the final, which for us was a huge achievement. In the final, we were up against BT, which is in their partnership with the FA. We were up against Everton Football Club, England Hockey, the Lawn Tennis Association, and the International Table Tennis Association. Now, I mean, they are big organisations with a bigger budget than we've got, because our budget is zero, basically, and also with people paid to achieve diversity and inclusion. And we came third. We won bronze, which was just the most fantastic achievement for a group of 100 volunteers who run the WFA. It was a huge achievement. And our nomination concentrated on the diversity that we're doing with people with impairments, such as Parkinson's, and developing the women's game, but also developing the game internationally as well. So it was a three-pronged nomination. And yeah, we're thrilled that we got in the top three. Absolutely thrilled. It's a huge achievement.
Yeah, congratulations. And from that is obviously recognition and just general promotion of the game and awareness. So it can only get bigger and better.
Yeah, as I've said to you, when we first chatted, if as a result of listening to this, if 3 or 4 people think, well, I'll give walking football a try, then from our point of view, that's what we want to achieve. We're trying to raise the profile of the game. We're trying to get more people to take the game seriously. Yes, we want to attract sponsorship for players at all levels, but the most important thing is to spread the word of the game and get more people active. And even if they've got long-term health conditions that they're living with, we just want to get people up off the couch and out and get them active and having fun, because the health and well-being benefits of this sport are just fantastic.
Yeah, especially at the moment. Yeah, I couldn't agree
Absolutely.
more. Stuart, once again, thank you very much for coming on and giving us an update as to how things are going. It's always great to hear from you. And I'll say next year when the Parkinson's Cup is, you're aware of how that's going, then yeah, let's touch base again.
So yeah, lovely. Thank you, and thanks for helping to promote the sport. We've got matches coming up hopefully in France and Poland, and Gibraltar want to come over and play against us. So there's lots happening, and then of course World Nations Cup in May, June or July, whenever. Fingers crossed. So yeah. Lots to look forward to, COVID permitting, of course.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I wish you all the very best with it. Stuart, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to Stuart there for his time. Now, you may remember that first episode where I spoke with him. Well, that can still be listened to if you missed it or if you want to recap on it. It's episode 148. Just type in Walking Football, 3 Lions podcast. It should come up that way. And if Walking Football sounds up your street, go give the WFA a look. The website is thewfa.co.uk. Now, as we mentioned with Stuart there, on the 30th of November came the sad news that former 3 Lion Ray Kennedy had passed away at the age of 70. Ray was a legend at both Arsenal and Liverpool. Born in 1951 in Northumberland, he won the double with Arsenal in 1971, famously scoring the goal that beat Tottenham at White Hart Lane. That was before he then transferred to Liverpool for £200,000 in 1974. He would go on to be part of the dominant Liverpool team of that era, winning, amongst others, 3 European Cups and 5 league titles. Now, he won his first England cap under Don Revie when he was picked to play away to Wales in 1976 in a friendly. He would go on to score the opening goal in a 2-1 victory. And he would go on to play 17 times for England, scoring a total of 3 goals. There was the 1 against Wales and 2 coming later against Luxembourg.
And he's got past Marg. And the long cross comes in towards McShannon. And for Kennedy, goal! 3-0. 20 minutes of the second half, and a few smiles now about England.
Unfortunately, though, for him, he didn't seem to get on with then England manager Ron Greenwood. and he would retire from the national team in March 1981. Sadly, in later life, he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease in 1984. He did become involved in the Parkinson's Disease Society and gave his image to help promote the awareness of the disease, a disease he would live with for 37 years. And we send our condolences to his family and his friends. Thank you very much for tuning in. As always, it is more than appreciated. Now, we have the Nations League draw coming up. That is on the 16th of December. I'll be putting together an episode for that. Also, I'm hoping to put together an end-of-year episode, of which you are more than welcome to contribute to. What has been your England moment of 2021? Why not open up your phone, open up the recorder, and talk to me. Tell me what your moment of 2021 was. Email it to me, 3lionspodcast@gmail.com. And there are certainly plenty of those moments to choose from. So until then, look after yourselves, stay safe. Speak to you soon. Cheers.